Trapped in Another World as Brothers, Book 1, Chapter 2, Culture Shock. The four brothers began their adventure traversing through the town they were summoned in. They were inundated by the subtle differences from this world and their own, everything from the architecture, the attire of the town locals, and even the fragrances in the air. "Maybe we can go find a hotel until we make sense of everything," Jushiro spoke up, making a suggestion to everyone. "It's more likely to be a tavern or an inn. It's not that hard to figure out the difference," Jason snidely remarked. "Well, aren't you the king of knowing the very subtle differences between a hotel and an inn? Hell, even a tavern," Ryukin sarcastically jolted in his response to Jason. "I don't want to hear anything from the guy who got us trapped here in this world," Jason fired back loudly. Komari lit a cigarette and extorted to the both of them. "Both of you, knock it off. We're in an unfamiliar territory, so we need to stay focused. Jushiro's right. We should find a place to stay for the time being." Just as the brothers began arguing, a shady figure came from a nearby alley. "Hey, you four," he called out. The brothers looked over before walking over to the man. "I have a proposition for you boys, if you find yourself interested," he said with a sly smile on his face. They looked at each other, before hesitantly agreeing to listen to what the man had to say. "Going by what you're wearing, I assume you're not from this world. Is that correct?" They all looked defeated as they realized it was painfully obvious they aren't from there. "Don't worry, I doubt too many people will judge you for it. But in this world, ownership over a lesser being is a legal concept here," he continued. "Like slavery," Komari remarked. "Yes, exactly, but ownership has a much better ring to it. Here, there are things called demi-humans." The man flicked a light switch and multiple cages with demi-humans in cages within them appeared. This made Jushiro uncomfortable seeing the sight in front of him. "You see, boys, my slaves are a tad bit different than those you find from other people. These here have all agreed to have sexual relationship with their masters," he roared in confidence. Jushiro, Jason, and Ryukin immediately expressed their disinterest, their faces reeking with disgust. Komari, however, to everyone's surprise, was interested. "Sure, I'll take a look." Komari nonchalantly walked forwards towards one of the cages. "Komari, you know this isn't ethical." Jushiro tried to sway Komari against owning a slave, but he didn't budge. "Jushiro, this isn't a game. We are in a new world with weapons given to us by a cult. I think we've already crossed the lines of what's ethical. Plus, the more help we can get, the better," he responded, looking down at a young female demi-human of the dog variety. "Ah, I see your interest has piqued in Yuki. She's very obedient and beautiful to boot." The man pitched Yuki to Komari as he looked down at her, taking a puff from his cigarette. Yuki looked up with sadness in her eyes at Komari. He looked back at her and made his decision. "How much?" The other brothers almost fell over in shock. "Komari, I always knew you were a perv," Ryukin screamed out. "It'll be 200 gold pieces, my boy. I know it's a bit pricey," but as the man was speaking, Komari pulled out the bag of gold coins he got from the cult. "Will this cover it?" Seeing the plump bag made the man's jaws drop as he unlocked Yuki's cage, grabbing and pulling her forcefully out of the cage onto her face. Jason, unable to hide his disdain for the situation, glared at the entire scene, but remained silent. As the group of five left the alley, Komari took a key he got from the man and took off the slave collar wrapped tightly around Yuki's neck. Yuki was surprised by what Komari just did. Am I free?" she asked. "No." Komari shot her down bluntly, which caused her to hang her head down in shame. She flinched, thinking she was about to be reprimanded, but when she opened her eyes, Komari was just standing there looking at her. Why did you take the collar off of me if I'm not free? It prevented me from running away," she asked, preparing herself for punishment. Komari took a puff from his cigarette before answering. "I trust you enough not to." Yuki looked shocked at the words that were just spoken. "Komari might be a perv, but he's not a monster," Ryukin said with a snide smile on his face as he teased Komari. "Kenny, I will burn you," Komari threatened as he had a blush on his face. "In our world, we treat others how we would want to be treated by them," Jushiro told Yuki with a smile on his face. With the matter settled, they left the uncomfortable scene behind and eventually found an inn. They ordered 4 separate rooms to give everyone their space, Yuki sharing a room with Komari. Amidst the flickering candlelight in their shared room at the end, Komari and Yuki found a moment of respite from the unfamiliar world they had been thrust into. The room's rustic charm and the soft glow of the candles created an atmosphere of intimacy and warmth. Komari, leaning against the edge of a wooden table, watched Yuki as she gazed out the window, her features illuminated by the play of the candlelight. Her ears perked up and her tail wagged gently as she contemplated the unknown future that laid ahead. Komari couldn't help but be captivated by her unique and endearing qualities. Yuki noticed Komari looking at her and she panicked, bowing down before Komari. "I'm sorry, please forgive me, I got too excited." Komari placed his hand on the top of her head. "Don't worry about it, it's fine." Yuki blushed as Komari went to sit down on their bed, putting his cigarette out on a nearby ashtray. Yuki hesitantly walked over to Komari and sat down next to him. "It's different. I'm not used to being treated this well," she said softly. Komari looked at her with a tender smile, his hand reaching out softly to caress her cheek. "Different doesn't necessarily mean bad," he reassured her. "Sometimes it's in the differences that we find beauty and new experiences." Yuki leaned into his touch, her heart skipping a beat as she found solace in his words. "What about you, Komari? What brings you solace in a world so different from your own?" "You and my brothers. You guys give me solace in a world I've never been to," he responded to her, his fingers tracing a path from her cheek to her chin, tilting her head upward. Their lips met in a tender and unhurried kiss, a silent promise that transcended the boundaries of their respective worlds. The room seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, hearts and souls entwined. In the realm where shadows dance with the timeless, a deity once mighty shall meet its twilight's embrace. The limbs of the divine, severed and encased in the prison of crystal, shall endure a perpetual existence, a spectral lament echoing through the ages. The ethereal veil shrouds the lamentations of the fallen, where eternity and oblivion entwine. As stars weep of cosmic sorrow, the essence of this god, unending in its suffering, becomes a testament to the boundless mysteries of existence. The four brethren, plucked from the mundane, bear the yoke of the vile purpose, their fates irrevocably bound to the deities. Through the mystic sigils and stars' enigmas, they embark on a voyage, enigma's testament to embrace the unknown. End of chapter 2.